This is Leader Time by FedNet, your podcast source for remarks by Senate Majority Leader John Thune and Democratic Leader Chuck Schumer on the Senate floor. On March 31st, Thune discussed processing President Trump's nominations and tax reform. The following material is protected by copyright.
Mr. President, work on the President's nominations continues apace. Last week, we confirmed 9 members of the President's administration, including the Secretary of the Navy, an Assistant Attorney General, and Deputy Secretaries of Treasury, State, and Veterans Affairs. The President's Cabinet Secretaries, of course, are all in place. And tonight, we'll be voting to invoke cloture on Matthew Whitaker to be the United States Permanent Representative to NATO. And I expect to confirm additional nominees this week as well. Mr. President, a huge focus early on in any new Congress with a newly elected president is filling out the President's administration. We've also been focused on the agenda the President and Republicans were elected to deliver. In the very near future, we will be taking up a budget resolution to lay the groundwork for legislation to make the 2017 tax relief permanent, secure the border, unleash American energy, and provide for our nation's defense. And all of that will be accompanied by substantial savings measures. And on the subject of maximizing savings, I just want to be very clear. The House and the Senate are united in aiming to do all we can on this. Sure, the instructions we give to our separate committees who are responsible for finding those savings may look a little bit different. But that's not because we don't have a shared commitment to cutting wasteful government spending and saving taxpayer dollars. That's simply a function of Senate rules. In the Senate, if we fail to meet a single savings instruction, even by $1, we lose our ability to consider the legislation under reconciliation rules and the simple majority threshold. And so we have to be careful not to miss the mark on this and to provide flexibility as we chart our bicameral course. But that won't stop us from maximizing savings. Again, on that point, we are committed. But back to the bill that we'll be moving forward. As I said, the budget resolution we will take up will lay the groundwork for legislation to make the 2017 tax cuts permanent. The 2017 tax relief we passed put more money in Americans' families' pockets, with the largest proportional share of the tax relief going to the middle class. And if we don't act to extend this relief, American families will be taking home lower paychecks next year. And along with the President, Senate Republicans are committed to ensuring that we not only extend this relief, but that we make it permanent. Americans should not have to worry about their tax relief expiring every few years. And in addition to making this relief permanent, the bill will also, as I said, invest in securing our border, unleashing American energy, and defending our nation. After years of chaos at our southern border under President Biden, and after years of deficiencies in our military readiness, it's time for a serious investment in border and national security. As I've said before, if we don't get national security right, the rest, Mr. President, is just conversation. And in the past, it is past time to address the deficiencies in our military readiness and to ensure that the good work President Trump is doing to secure the border and remove criminals from our streets can continue. Mr. President, I'm looking forward to taking up our budget resolution in the very near future so that we can deliver permanent tax relief for Americans, provide certainty to the economy, and make a transformational investment in border, energy, and national security. It's going to be a great bill.
Schumer focused on taxes as the Senate parliamentarian was due to rule on a baseline measurement of the federal budget before Republicans could move on a reconciliation resolution.
Well, Mr. President, this week, Donald Trump is preparing to take a sledgehammer to the American economy by preparing a tsunami of tariffs on all sorts of goods Americans purchase every day. A tsunami of tariffs. Let's be clear. Donald Trump's tariffs are a tax hike on American families. The average costs families will have to pay for groceries, gas, everyday goods, etc., will go up by thousands of dollars a year out of hardworking people's pockets to pay for these tariffs. And Donald Trump has the gall to call his trade war Liberation Day. That makes as much sense as calling a layoff notice a promotion letter. The Trump administration clearly has no strategy or goal behind their tariffs. One minute they say the tariffs will lead to more people buying American-made goods. But Peter Navarro said yesterday tariffs will also raise trillions in revenue. This is a total contradiction. You can't use tariffs to both raise revenue and bring jobs back. The only way you raise that much in revenue is if Americans pay that much for goods made abroad. And that means consumers will hurt most. Donald Trump knows his plan will send costs surging. He said he hopes automakers raise their price, spoken like a true billionaire. Donald Trump saying, I hope automakers will raise their prices? Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Consumer, Mr. and Mrs. Average American Family, Donald Trump wants you to pay more while he's giving tax cuts to billionaires. Senate Republicans, where are they? Always they just go along with whatever Trump wants, no matter how idiotic. Senate Republicans should be shouting from the rooftops to get the president to reverse course on tariffs. People in red states will be especially impacted, from farmers to small businesses. Republicans should be swarming the Senate floor with statements calling on the president to change his mind. But their response has been so feeble, so weak, almost non-existent, that Americans are right to question whose side they are really on. The worst part is nobody knows what these tariffs will look like, perhaps not even Donald Trump. He seems, on a slow day, he changes his mind about them only once a day. He seems to change his mind about them almost every hour. This is not what the American people want. Americans and American businesses detest the chaos and unpredictability that Trump brings. No surprise, more and more Americans now disapprove of his handling of the economy. Meanwhile, the S&P is on track for its worst quarter compared to the rest of the world since the 1980s. Consumer confidence is at its worst since Donald Trump's first term. Outlook for the economy is at a 12-year low. Household debt is on the rise. Donald Trump's trade war is playing Russian roulette with the American economy. And it will be households, retirees, consumers, average families that pay the price.
Thanks for listening to this FedNet podcast, and be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. This program is copyrighted by Federal Network, Incorporated, and provided only for informational and educational purposes. Unauthorized reproduction, distribution, or use of this episode without expressed written permission from FedNet is prohibited.